you here? Why are you here? Here, right here. Can't stay away. There's one answer. I like that. What are some other answers? Why are you here? Her angel told her to come. Yay, angel. Healing. Seeking healing.
We want a spiritual community.
We want a spiritual community.
Love.
Love.
Nisha came to me in a dream and invited me to come and sit to Joshua.
Oh, cool. Those were your angels in a way speaking to you. Yes.
Every week I get surprised by the wisdom and I get blown away by Norma's wisdom. So precious.
Oh, thank you, Donna.
Inspiration.
Inspiration.
The music.
The music.
Yes.
Yay.
Music. Connection.
Connection.
And you.
Connection to something bigger. Mhm.
I come because of you.
Thank you, dear. Guess what? I come because of you. All of you. Diane.
I come to be with like-hearted people.
Mhm. Yes.
I was fascinated about last week's topic. I've never been, but the SEVA topic, and I was hoping that would be this week's topic because that.
It is this
Oh,
week.
it is.
Yeah.
That's super, like,
Yeah.
You're totally tuned in, and we're all in the same vibration. So I'm really fascinated.
I wasn't going to talk about it. I got asked to talk about it, so it must be, it's coming through on all of our hearts, you know. Okay. Let me know what you think afterwards. Anybody else? Why are you here?
Perspective.
Just to share my blessings and love for people, my heart for people.
Yeah.
To be able to pray with other brothers and sisters, and to support my sweetheart in singing this week.
Recharge my batteries.
Recharge the batteries, yes. I heard one more back there.
I said perspective.
Perspective, yes. Okay, so these are all great answers, and we could maybe sum it all up by saying that we're here to reach out to the sacred and to have some sense of connection there, and to touch into one another and feel the sense of community together. Because let's face it, if you just wanted to have contact with the sacred, you could go off in nature, or you could just do it at home on your meditation cushion. But there's something about coming together with a group of people that are seeking, that are in the same mindset. So we're here to experience this flow of energy, this giving and receiving, because it's a flow of aliveness, and we can feel it. And that meets our deep soul needs somehow. You know, like we go to lectures and we get enlightened at lectures intellectually. So what I do isn't just a lecture. You know, we go to theaters to be entertained. So what we do isn't just entertainment. But in a spiritual gathering like this, we're coming in human community centered around spirit. And there's something magical that happens when we do that. Some people call it reverence. But we come to open our hearts, to listen deeply in our hearts to what Spirit is saying to us and to the needs of one another, and we hope to get our needs met when we come here. For example, the children, you know, we took a little time to talk about the needs of the children's program, but that's a really great example of selfless service because lots of us don't have children, and yet we have a heart for the children. We want the children to be ministered to and their needs to be met. So, you know, if we were coming just to have a connection with the divine, it might be a whole different setup. You know, like I've been to Buddhist meditations where you never talk to the people there. You just go and sit on the cushion and meditate and then you leave. And that's okay. I like that too, but this is different. But there's a little bit of an irreverent joke story I want to tell about this. There's a story about this mountain climber who fell over the edge of the cliff one day, and he grabbed a hold of a vine, which kept him from the long fatal fall. And now you might think you know this story, but this is a different twist on it. He waited there for someone to come along and help him back up. And after a while, he was getting tired, and he called out to the heavens, and he said, "Is anybody up there?" And he heard this deep, sonorous voice, "This is God. Let go of the vine, and I will take care of you. And after a pause, the man called out again, is there anybody else up there? So, you know, if it was just our motivation to be in divine contact, it's not enough. You know, we're coming here for the real human relationships that will really sustain us in time of need. Martin Buber, one of my favorite theologians, wrote, we experience God in the will to love. And Ram Dass said, helping out is not some special skill. It's not the domain of rare individuals. It's not confined to a single part of our lives. We simply heed the call of the natural impulse to come together, and then we find out what we need to do and we follow that. Isn't that beautiful? So that's why we are here. Everything that you've said, and especially because we're here to connect with one another. So I'd like to guide you into a meditation right now that has to do with both connecting to the divine, with yourself, and it's about connecting with one another. So be comfortable in your chair. Be aware of how your feet are positioned and how your hands are positioned. And begin to nurture yourself with some deep breaths. So wonderful just to get to breathe mindfully. Breathing in and out, and listen to the sound of the music, inviting you into this present moment. As you hear the sound of my words, become acutely aware of your own breath, your own being. Each time you inhale, feel your energy, and each time you exhale, settle into yourself a little more deeply. Inhale, feeling the energy, and exhale, settling. Fully present with yourself, observing your breathing, listening to the sound of the music, of your breath, of other people's breaths. Let yourself reside in the quietude of this moment and of your own being. And feel your life energy. Witness it. Be thankful and fully present to this gentle energy that is you, that is your soul, that is your spirit. In the stillness of this room, it's made for healing of your body and your soul. Breathing quiet, breathing healing, breathing peace. Let it just wash over you like a wave. Here, aware, the spontaneity of this moment. Who knows what will happen? Anything can happen. Because magic is the ability to transform energy. In these states of inner awareness, you have magical powers. You can evoke energies and come to a deep appreciation of them. You can shape and transform and channel energy. In this state, you have magical powers, and with these magical powers, you can create a body of energy which will be of great service in spreading well-being. Your energy body gets brought to life by calling up and concentrating on specific beneficent qualities. So right now in this room, I'd love you to bring forth the quality of generosity. Generosity. Feel it in your heart. Remember real times when you've witnessed it. Generosity. Times when you felt it. Times when it's been in the air. Let these times parade through your mind right now, leaving a warm glow of that feeling of generosity as you go from one memory to the next. Sense the energy of generosity building in this room, building in your awareness. Sense its presence, generosity. Feel it. Be intimate with it. What does it feel like? It's not complex. It has a pretty profound simplicity. It makes your heart smile. Sometimes it can even make your spirit swoon. Keep remembering some times when you've been graced, touched in your heart, cracked open maybe by generosity. It brings tears to your eyes sometimes. There's just such a spacious quality about it. Draw on these memories now and invite generosity to be here with us. As you inhale, gather it in, generosity. Feel it, concentrate on it. As you breathe out, send it out all around you. As you breathe in, charge your body with generosity. Feel it, imagine it, the energy, the color of it, the vibration of it, the sound of the music of it, even the poetry of it. Become animated with generosity. Let it vibrate you, let it hum you. And now use this energy body that we've created, focused on generosity, on a healing mission. If there's any agitated or fearful condition in your own body, let generosity move there and bring peace there. If there's any particular situation that you're concerned about, let the generosity move there and bring peace to that situation, to those people and activities involved. People become kinder, more open, more honest and caring in the presence of generosity and compassion. Everything works well. Everyone wishes everyone well. Imagine how this happens. It's real. Generosity changes the atmosphere. I welcome you here to this place of generosity, this place of love, where we are willing to love one another. Oh. I've asked Natalie to come now and read this wonderful poem for us by Oriah Mountain Dreamer. You may have heard it before, but it's a good reminder and it's so apropos for today.
This is called The Invitation. Have I got the mic right? Thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
This is by Oriah Mountain Dreamer, a Native American woman, and I'm reading it to you from my heart. It doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for, and if you dare to dream of meeting your life's longing, your heart's longing. It doesn't interest me how old you are. I want to know if you will risk looking like a fool for love, for your dream, for the adventure of being alive. It doesn't interest me what planets are squaring your moon. I want to know if you have touched the center of your sorrow, if you have been opened by life's betrayals, or have been shriveled and closed from fear of further pain. I want to know if you can sit with your pain, mine or your own, without moving to hide it, to fake it, to fade it, or fix it. I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or your own. If you can dance with wildness and let the ecstasy fill you to the tips of your fingers and your toes, and without cautioning us to be careful, be realistic, remember the limits of being human. It doesn't interest me if the story you are telling me is true. I want to know if you can disappoint another to be true to yourself. If you can bear the accusations of betrayal and not betray your own soul. If you can be faithless and therefore trustworthy. I want to know if you can see beauty even on a day when it isn't very pretty. And if you can source your own life from its presence. I want to know if you can live with failure. Yours, and mine, and still stand at the edge of the lake and shout to the silver full moon, yes! It doesn't interest me to know where you live or how much money you have. I want to know if you can get up after a night of grief and despair, weary and bruised to the bone, and do what needs to be done for the children. It doesn't interest me who you know or how you came to be here. I want to know if you will stand in the center of the fire with me and not shrink back. It doesn't interest me where or what or with whom you have studied. I want to know what satisfies you from the inside when all else falls away. I want to know if you can be alone with yourself and if you truly like the company you keep. Thank you.
Somebody prayed for me, had me on their mind, took the time and prayed for me. I'm so glad they prayed, I'm so glad they prayed, I'm so glad they prayed for me. My father prayed for me, had me on his mind, took the time and prayed for me. Sing it! I'm so glad he prayed, I'm so glad he prayed, I'm so glad he prayed for me. My mother prayed for me, had me on her mind, took the time and prayed for me. Oh yes she did. I'm so glad she prayed, I'm so glad she prayed, I'm so glad she prayed for me. My preacher prayed for me, had me on her mind, took the time and prayed for me. I'm so glad she prayed, I'm so glad she prayed, I'm so glad she prayed for me. My friend prayed for me, had me on their mind, took the time and prayed for me. Oh yeah, I'm so glad they prayed, I'm so glad they prayed, I'm so glad they prayed for me. Let's take it down, so somebody prayed for me,
Had me on their mind, took the time and prayed for me.
I'm so glad they
prayed,
I'm so glad they
prayed, I'm so glad they prayed.
My mother prayed for me, had me on her mind, took the time and prayed for me. I'm so glad she prayed, I'm so glad she prayed, I'm so glad she prayed for
Glad you said that. He says they're going to pray for us. Sometimes I've thought, ooh, maybe they think there's something wrong with me. They're going to pray for me. Even then, I'm thankful that they're praying for me. So, yeah, we welcome the kindness of others. I've been asked today to talk about SEVA, which means selfless service. And I'm going to lead into it a little bit now, and then we'll have another poem and song, and then I'll talk a little bit more about it. But SEVA, you've probably heard it nowadays because we're so omni-faith and multicultural, but it's a Sanskrit word, and it means selfless service, or work performed without any thought of return or reward or payment. In ancient India, SEVA was believed to be one of the most important ways to further one's spiritual growth. And at the same time, it contributed to the improvement of community. So SEVA was a spiritual path that you could walk. Selfless service. It was an art of giving. with no need to receive. It's quite antithetical to what we're taught in our modern day lives, right? We're taught, right? Don't do anything without what you're going to get back, or you've got to do this so you can be on your path to success and get the rewards for that. But the Bhagavad Gita says, SEVA, or selfless service, requires that an individual perform any service without any attachment or expectation. That's the number one thing it says. Number two, it says, you should remain unaffected by the results of such service. So even if you serve and somebody says, thank you, oh, that was so great, remain unaffected by that. And the third thing it says, at the same time, an individual needs to cultivate a loving attitude towards such a selfless task without developing any stress from it, no matter the outcome. So if you do not love doing some task, and yet you do it, it can create a conflict in your mind, leading to emotional upheaval. So this Bhagavad Gita is telling us that when this conflict comes in our mind, that this is when the spiritual practice starts. We've got to learn to create love toward any duty, even washing the dishes or doing the pots and pans, which I don't like to do, but that kind of thing. So notice if you are happier and satisfied at the end of the day when you've brought this kind of mindset to any task that you're doing. This is called creating good karma. The Dalai Lama and Mother Teresa come to mind, right, as people who've created a lot of good karma. They're actually called karma yogis. And you know what? People in this congregation come to my mind too. Like, I just can't help but mention Roy and Marge,
Yeah, really.
They've been such faithful servant leaders for all the years. And some of you that are new here don't realize it, but all the 10 years that I've been here, they've been board members, they've been doing the setup and takedown every week, just behind the scenes, just being there, servant leaders. There's lots of others of you here too, and I just don't want to, have you feel bad by me not mentioning your names, because you're all wonderful givers and receivers from one another, the benefits of this selfless service. So this approach, performing a task without any expectation and letting go of all results, whether they're good or bad, and focusing on the selfless action alone, this is the essence of seva, and it is a spiritual practice. And the Hindu commentator says, if you do this, you will find out that you're going to be getting free. You're going to be getting freer and freer in your soul from emotional disturbances, like I just said, from desire, from ambition, from fear, from worry, from anxiety, from judgment, from anger and rage. It says this in the Bhagavad Gita, that it leads to true happiness to do seva. Well, modern psychology, I like to draw upon that too, and there are studies that have proven that volunteering with this kind of an altruistic attitude helps the individual to actually live longer. Maybe you've heard about it, but it's actually been proven that if you do this selfless service, that your stress will be reduced. The body will release oxytocin, and it will buffer any stressful thoughts. Your morale will be lifted because you'll just be thinking about the selfless service, and that releases the certain good feeling chemical named dopamine and serotonin, the lack of which have been linked with depression and mood disorders. It builds your self-confidence and self-esteem, because when you're passionate about something and helping others in need, you feel good. You feel good about yourself. And it even helps with health and pain reduction, because it's been proven scientifically that helping others will help your cardiovascular health. So, interesting research. And then there was this other study that I just have to tell you about, because it was done specifically about a study about people who volunteer. Do they live longer than people who don't? And so they did this long study from the 1960s all the way through the 2000s. It's called a longitudinal study. And the thing that came out in it, though, was that that people who volunteer because of the benefit to their self and are choosing to do it because of that don't live longer. But the people that do it just out of this selfless service, not with any thought of what it's going to do for them, are the ones who live longer, and they had a questionnaire that they devised to test this out, you know. So there is really something about this SEVA, this selfless service. So you might be asking yourself questions that always come up to us when we think about service, like, can I really make a difference? The life that we live is so quick, and sometimes things are going by us so fast, and is my life really going to count for anything? How am I supposed to help? Does anyone really need what I have to offer? Or I've been doing so much and I'm tired and I don't have time to give. All of these kinds of questions, you know? But you know what? All of those questions, no matter which direction they go, they only serve to delay you from doing SEVA. They only distract you. Because the attitude of SEVA is just, like the poem said, yes. Just yes. Oh, this needs to be done? Yes. Oh, somebody asked me to do that? Yes. So SEVA can sometimes be about your talents and skills being used. You know, somebody might say, oh, you've got this talent, please use this talent. Yes, I will. Somebody might also ask you to put the chairs away at the end of the unity service. That's not a talent or a skill, but yes, I will, because that's what needs to be done. So it's virtually impossible to change the world in one fell swoop like we know. Our efforts don't need to be huge to make a really big impact. SEVA teaches us that we just need to focus on the community around us, the village in which we live, the partnerships we've created, and the lives of those that touch us every day. We need to find out what others' needs are and then go about meeting them. Reaching out to somebody that you meet here and really getting to know what their needs are. Or just doing a random act of kindness, like somebody yesterday brought me a bouquet of flowers. That was so touching to me. And another person invited me out to brunch. You know, so you never know how just a simple act like that can really touch somebody's heart. So whether you do it anonymously or do it openly, take the time to give your talents, your treasures, and your prayers, that's even on a silent level, on a regular basis. These kind of kindnesses really can turn the world around. Small steps lead to great change. I've asked John to come and read a poem that kind of rivets this in for us. It's called Kindness.
See if this works. This is Kindness by Naomi Shihab Nye. Before you know what kindness really is, you must lose things. Feel the future dissolve in a moment like salt in a weakened broth. What you held in your hand, what you counted and carefully saved, all this must go, so you can know how desolate the landscape can be between the regions of kindness. How you ride and ride, thinking the bus will never stop. The passengers eating maize and chicken will stare out the window forever. Before you learn the tender gravity of kindness, you must travel where the Indian in a white poncho lies dead by the side of the road. You must see how this could be you. How he too was someone who journeyed through the night with pain, with plans, and the simple breath that kept him alive. Before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. You must wake up with sorrow. You must speak it till your voice catches the thread of all sorrows, and you see the size of the cloth. Then it is only kindness that makes sense anymore. The only kindness that ties your shoes and sends you out into the day to mail letters and to purchase bread. Only kindness that raises its head from the crowd of the world to say, it is I you have been looking for, and then goes with you everywhere, like a shadow or a friend.
I got to meet Holly Neer at the Pioneers Conference in 2003. She is an amazing voice for the last 35 years of activism. And she has a song called I Am Willing. And I just, as I'm singing this, if you want to just, you're welcome to close your eyes and go deep about the words, what the words are saying about activism and about sharing our gifts and talents and what we're willing to do. I am open and I am willing for to be hopeless. What seems so strange, it dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. There is hurting in my family, and there is sorrow in my town. There is panic all across this nation, and there is wailing the whole world around. But I am open and I am willing for to be hopeless. What seems so strange, it dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. May the children see more clearly, and may the elders be more wise. May the winds of change caress us, even though they burn our eyes. But I am open and I am willing for to be hopeless. What seems so strange, it dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. Give me a mighty yoke to hold my confusion, and give me a desert to hold my fears. Give me a sunset to hold my wonder, and give me an ocean to hold my tears. But I am open and I am willing for to be hopeless. Oh, it seems so strange, it dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. Oh, we are gathered in the name of unity, and we are oh so glad you're here. We are asking you to step up, share your talents and volunteer. Here we go. But I am open and I am stand up for to be hopeless. What seems so strange, it dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. One more time.
That was a great rendition of Holly Near. Holly Near's been here, you know, right on this same stage a few years back with a full crowd of people honoring her activism and her servant leadership. How many know Holly Near and have been inspired by her through the years? Many of you, young or old, you know, whatever stage you're at in your life, I know you are servant leaders. I know that's probably why you're sitting here. So as I thought about what to say to you today. I was really thinking into what could be inspiring to you, and one thing I hit upon was that we come together to get encouragement for the deep soul work that it is, just like you've been hearing in the poetry, to be a servant leader. Because to be such requires you to go down deep into your own deep stuff and to feel it and to cry with it, to ask others to help you with it. So a good leader is, I believe, always someone who's willing to do that kind of soul work, to grow in integrity, and to seek this kind of further wholeness deep down that's always calling us, the next step and the next step. By wholeness, I don't mean perfection. I don't even mean virtue. But by wholeness or integrity, I mean harmony between who we really are and how we fulfill our roles in life. To be a leader with integrity means that we've got to bring our whole self to the task. Like the poem that you read, Natalie, our whole self, our limitations and our strengths. Integrity requires vulnerability as well as courage, or a vulnerable kind of courage. Have you ever felt yourself talking from your divided self as you've been in your role rather than from your heart? Have you ever said what people wanted to hear just because it was the easy thing to do? Have you ever felt that you were failing to meet the expectations of others, that you weren't able to bring your gifts and talents out in a certain situation? Have you ever felt you were not being true to yourself? I sure have. These were probably moments which lacked integrity for you, moments in which you were a divided house. Parker Palmer, who's a famous spiritual writer, he wrote this book called A Hidden Wholeness, The Journey Toward an Undivided Life. And he writes that we all have a hidden wholeness within, and it's the purpose of our spiritual journey to find our wholeness and to contribute from that place of wholeness to the communities within which we live and work. So on the other hand, have you ever had a day when you could do no wrong, when almost everything you said just rang true, and it seemed so wise, and it made people feel better? That was a day in which you were living in your wholeness, with the harmony of who you really are. And that was a day when you were feeling integrous, whole, undivided. One image comes to mind when I think of this undivided wholeness. It's a short poem by Douglas Wood. It says, "Jack pine trees are not lumber trees, and they won't win many beauty contests either. But to me, this valiant old tree, solitary on its own rocky point, is as beautiful as any living thing can be. In the calligraphy of its shape against the sky is written strength of character and perseverance, survival of the wind, the drought, the cold, the heat, the disease. In its silence, it speaks of wholeness and integrity that comes from being who it is." So this image reminds me of a young man in our community, a leader here in Ashland, who I got to know more deeply in the Journey to Completion group. And his name is Chris. And the thing that I want to say about this is that he was a leader who was really concerned about the environment and about especially the farming situation in our area. And he was concerned about the GMO crops coming in. And he was in the Journey to Completion group, and in that he went deep into his own shadow material, and he realized that he felt really alone. And he felt afraid of those big companies out there that were insulting our crops, and coming upon our local area here. But he didn't stop there, being held in the safe container of this group. And some of you were in it with him, went really deep. And he found that what his real need was, that the gift out of that whole feeling was that he needed community. And he especially needed community of other farmers. So when he launched the GMO campaign that swept across this valley and then across the nation and across the world, rather than calling it something about hating those companies, he called it the Family Farmers Coalition. And that challenged the whole perspective of that movement. And it did achieve bringing people together across ethnic, class, religious beliefs for the betterment of our community and our health and our children's future. I went down to vote that day that the vote came up on it, and I was there in line in Medford with people of all different races, classes, and educational backgrounds and ages, and it brought tears to my eyes because we were all coming together for something that we all really cared about. So this is the kind of activity that gets spawned in secret, that gets spawned in the deep places of our hearts in a small little group with people like in the Journey to Completion. And we have tools that can help us to go to this soul deep level where we've got to go, and then amazing things can come out of it. We need to move our minds away from being set on there being an enemy out there and creating blame and division and those mindsets that create war, because all of those mindsets, none of them are going to really create what we want on planet Earth. So we really have to keep examining ourselves and seeing where the remnants are of ourselves blaming other people, because that's not going to lead to the future and the hope that we want. So somehow, to me, this connected to selfless service. It somehow is a strange, paradoxical combination, because we've got to go into ourselves and really meet with ourselves and find out what our wounded, scared, damaged places are, and then heal those places. And then as we do that, we come out into a place where we can really do selfless service. So it's a combination like that. So our task, and the task of all leaders, is to care for our true selves. And in doing this, we are giving a gift to the world, the gift of integrity. Imagine a world, like I was having you do a little bit earlier about imagining a world where generosity is abundant. Imagine a world in which everyone lived an undivided life. A world in which all people spoke from the heart and lived from the soul. Integrity requires that we witness to our values and our principles, and that we keep our dreams and visions alive by sharing them with one another. Like Black Elk, he was a young man, and he had dreams, and he shared them with his tribe eventually when he was brave enough to, and they helped him to create those dreams manifesting in ordinary reality. This is what we've got to do, to bear witness again and again to the visions that we hold dear. We're so fortunate to be part of a spiritual community like this, because we're all engaged in this soul work in one way or another, and calling one another to integrity, and encouraging one another in healing, and affirming the wholeness that we see only in little fragments at times. We're being a kind of community that can see miracles happen. We carry an important perspective, because we believe it's possible for people to come together in deep authenticity, right? And do their shadow work, and thereby grow in ways that heal us so deeply that we become more trustworthy, and we heal the breakdowns in trust. And this does mend the very fabric of society. There's a lot going on behind the scenes in all of the small groups, in the Circles of Eight, the Journey to Completion, the prayer group, meditation, and many other small circles that you're meeting in that are spiritual. You are having a huge impact on the world. I met a woman this week who's a member of our congregation, and she said much of her time she's spending sitting in her house, really praying and meditating for her own healing and for the healing of the world. So no matter what state you're in, no matter how healthy or unhealthy you are, you can do this. From the depths of your soul, you can do SEVA. And we're fortunate because we have visions of how our Rogue Valley needs to be more whole, of how communities that we're a part of need to be more undivided. So we're all leaders here. We're also followers. In childhood, we learned follow the leader, like we learned that we needed to take turns being followers and leaders. So in all different situations that we're in here in our community, sometimes we might be a follower, sometimes we might be a leader. So there's another little story about this kind of following and leading that I wanted to share quickly, and some of you might know it if you've read Herman Hesse, Journey to the East. It's the story of a band of men on a mythical journey, and the central figure of the story is named Leo, who accompanies the party as the servant of all of them. And Leo does the menial chores, he waits on the other men, he carries the water, and he also sustains them by song whenever they get discouraged or when the walk seems too long. He talks to them and lifts their spirits. Leo is the servant extraordinaire. And all goes well on the journey until one day Leo disappears. And then very quickly the group starts to fall into disarray, and the journey eventually gets abandoned because they couldn't really make it without their servant, Leo. Well, one of the party, after many years of wandering, to his delight, finds Leo again, and he's in a religious order. And so this man goes in and he takes part in the order, and lo and behold, he discovers that Leo, who had been the servant of all of them, was in fact the head of this order. He was its guiding spirit and noble, great teacher. So this concept of the servant leader is an ancient one. Certainly, we can think of Jesus as such a leader, and Gandhi, and Dorothy Day, Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela. Truly, the best of leaders are those who understand their role as servants. Great leaders are those who serve not just the people, but also serve a higher purpose, a greater vision. Like Martin Luther King said, I've been to the mountaintop, and when I was there, I saw justice rolling down like a river. Justice. Jesus said, it's one of those paradoxes of human existence, what he said. He said, whoever would save his life shall lose it, and whoever would lose his life shall find it. That truth, that observation, is more clear if you actually look into the Greek words behind it, which is what they teach you to do in seminary. And that word life here is actually the word P-S-U-C-H-E, suche, and it's a word which means breath. So he's actually saying whoever would save his breath shall lose it. That's obvious. If you've ever tried to hold your breath for very long, you will lose it or you will die. So it's about giving forth freely, letting it go, and receiving back. I really like what D.H. Lawrence said about this. He said, as we live, we are transmitters of life. And when we fail to transmit life, life fails to flow through us. And if as we work, we can transmit life, still more life rushes into us to compensate, to be ready as we ripple with life through our days. Give and it shall be given unto you is still the truth of life. So I'm not talking about moral obligation when I talk about SEVA. It's about an expression of our aliveness to be generous and giving. And I'll conclude with this last story here. I love this story, and I've chosen to share stories with you about 3 men today. Lots of times we give examples of the lives of women, and me being a woman and having been downtrodden in some ways, I like to lift women up. But today I really wanted to lift men up, because I think so many times what men do behind the scenes isn't appreciated and isn't honored enough, and all that men have to go through to be who they are too. So this next story is a story of a young boy. He went into a diner one day and he sat at the counter. And the waitress came over and put a glass of water in front of him, and he said to the waitress, "How much is a dish of ice cream?" And she said, 50 cents. And so the young man pulled a handful of coins out of his pocket, and he said, "How much is a plain dish of ice cream with no toppings on it?" And there were other people waiting at the counter, and the waitress was growing kind of impatient. And she said, "Okay, 35 cents, she said brusquely. And then the boy counted his change again, and finally said, "Okay, I'll have a dish of plain ice cream then." So the waitress brought the plain ice cream and the check, and put them in front of the boy and walked away. And then when she came back, a few minutes later, after the boy had eaten the ice cream and was gone, she looked down at the empty dish and then swallowed hard as she saw next to the plate. It's making me cry. There were 2 nickels and 5 pennies. Her tip. So he figured that out in his mind, you know, that he made sure not to take the toppings, so he was leaving her a tip. You can tell that this story it happened a really long time ago. It was a grandmother telling this story who had been a waitress in her early life, you know. And that story stuck with her all through her life because the generosity of that little boy touched her heart so deeply. So giving this way, SEVA, is a reflection of our aliveness. It's not an act of deprivation, but of self-expression to give of ourselves to benefit others. SEVA is this art of this blessed kind of action that the little boy did, that the monk did, Leo, that my friend Chris did. Heeding this call to the next horizon of aliveness inside of ourselves is where SEVA leads us. I've got to say that SEVA applies to individuals, but it also applies to communities. It applies to this spiritual community, this gathering that we cherish. We have to realize that it doesn't belong solely to us. We belong to it. It certainly has undergone many changes in the 30 or so years of its existence. And indeed, each generation has done a lot to keep it going with their inspiration and their talents and treasures. And we deeply honor all that has gone before this moment in time, but it's ours to do now. And we must take this task seriously. Will this special energy and this freedom, which we hold so dear here, this freedom to seek out our own understanding of what spiritual truths are. People all over the world wish they had that freedom, and we have that freedom here. We can go into deep places in ourselves and come up with our own truths. So, do you want to leave a legacy of this kind of freedom? I do. And I know that many of you contribute to worthy causes. And my hope is that over these next weeks and months, as you hear more and more about the vision that I've been holding for a long time about us having an earth temple, I hope that this will evoke such an expression of aliveness in you, that as I talk about it in more and more detail, that you will be called afresh to give yourself in selfless service to see our mission carried through in this community to the next level of its completion. As I've talked to people around town about it, not just within Unity, but in the greater community, everybody is saying, yes, I'm in. Yes, I'm in. People are feeling the need for a community gathering place that holds the kind of truths that we're all about here, the multicultural, interfaith, justice, depth work. Nothing really quite exists in our community that's all about that. So I'm going to end with a phrase by D.H. Lawrence. He says, as we live, we are transmitters of life. And when we fail to transmit life, life fails to flow through us. Oh, I already did this, sorry. It's another quote. It's the final one by Bertrand Russell, and it's, to be happy in this world, it's necessary to feel oneself. To be happy in this world, it's necessary to feel oneself, not merely an isolated individual whose day will soon be over, but a part of the stream of life, flowing from the first germ to the remote and unknown future. So join with me in knowing this kind of happiness and creating this kind of SEVA in our community. I'm excited to see what we do together to leave a legacy.